welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
This is not your average interview about books.
No, I know.
It's more about a project that I'm doing, and it's also because I'd like to go across the border to other countries with the intent of having people tell stories about the war and also about after, when the war was over and they were born.
Yeah.
And we're talking now about a project called Colored by War, and that is about World War II.
Yes.
And you and I are both second generation, and we have a lot in common. And so I find it really thrilling that I can ask your advice about things because you're really prolific in expressing yourself, and that really is exciting for me to do. We have a role.
Yes, we do. And I never felt like a victim, and I always, especially when my first novel came out in '94, Blue Mondays, critics said, you're part of this second generation. Not a movement, but you are a second generation. And I always emphasize that I'm not a victim, and I don't belong. I'm much more than second generation, and my parents, especially my mother, was more than a survivor. So I found it's a bit limiting to just say this is what you are and nothing else. And also the whole it borders also on the whole question about Jewish identity, which is a very difficult question when you're not religious anymore. I stopped being religious when I was 15, 16, or at least I stopped going to synagogue. My sister became very religious. My sister is a settler. I think we discussed that. She has been living on the West Bank for years, 7 children, 5 grandchildren. But now back to your question. I think when I'm writing a daily column for a newspaper in the Netherlands, and especially around May 4th, the Day of Remembrance, in the Netherlands, there's always this discussion, what are we going to say and what's this day about? Is it only about World War II? Is it about all wars? And officially, as you may know, it's much more than only. It's about all the wars that have been fought after 39, after 40. I found, when I think of the letters and the emails I'm getting from readers of this newspaper, that there's really lack of information about the war, ironically enough.
Even in Holland?
Even in Holland, yes. There's some basic facts that are known to people, but even those basic facts are very limited. So especially now that the last survivors, the last witnesses are dying, it's extremely important to tell the next generation what happened. To not only to honor the death, but also in the hope that we won't witness another war in Europe. To me, that's very important. Mm-hmm. Of course, I know history is not like an education model. It's not like we don't kill people in order to prevent future killings. That's not how history works. But I'm a pessimist, but I think pessimism is also something
optimistic.
that, in a way, sometimes you have no other choice than being optimistic as well. So I do hope that at least some people will not better themselves, but will be more hesitant and more reluctant when it comes to playing a negative role. That we have, hopefully we have become a bit more prudent, a bit more careful, and we won't, and we acknowledge, we accept the dangers of nationalism and of scapegoating.